The sun was setting over the green hills of planet Virella. The sky was a soft purple. Wind moved gently through the tall trees. Birds flew slowly, singing strange but sweet songs. It was a peaceful evening. Inside a small stone house near the edge of the forest, an alien mother was cooking. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and full of love. She had 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy was 8 years old, curious and brave. The girl was 5, always holding her mother's hand. They were waiting for dinner. The house was small but warm. It was filled with soft lights and the smell of food. The family laughed quietly. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Suddenly, a deep hum filled the air. Not from the house, not from the forest. It was coming from the sky. The mother stopped stirring the pot. Her eyes looked up confused. The boy ran to the window. "Mom, the sky, outside." Something was happening. The sky was turning red. Not the soft color of sunset. This was dark, angry red. Like fire. Then a sound like thunder. A boom so loud it shook the ground. The family rushed outside. All around the village people were screaming. Some pointed to the sky, others ran. Parents grabbed their children. Fear was everywhere. Above them, giant black ships floated in the sky. Warships, cold, massive, silent. No message, no warning. And then fire fell. Missiles shot from the ships. The ground exploded. Houses burned, trees shattered. People screamed louder. The village was being destroyed. The mother grabbed both children and ran. Her home, the place where she raised her babies, was already gone. She didn't look back. They ran through smoke and ash. They could barely see. The air burned their throats. Suddenly the girl tripped. She cried. The mother picked her up in one arm and held the boy's hand with the other. They kept running. Around them, the world was ending. They found a broken building, half destroyed but standing. The mother ran inside, placed her children in a dark corner, and whispered, "Be quiet. Don't move." Outside, they heard footsteps. Not human. Not like their own. Heavy, slow metal. Machines. Tall walking machines moved through the ruins. Their heads glowed red. They scanned everything. If they saw movement, they fired. No mercy. No second chance. The mother held her children close. Her heart beat fast. She didn't breathe. The machines passed by. A long moment of silence. Then another explosion. The roof broke. A wall fell. Everything went dark. When the mother opened her eyes, there was dust in the air. Her head hurt. She looked around. Her daughter was crying. Her son was shaking her arm. "Mom, are you okay?" She nodded slowly. Her arm was bleeding, but she was alive. Their hiding place was almost gone, just broken stone and smoke, but somehow they survived. The village was silent now. No more screams. No more footsteps. Just smoke and silence. They were alone. No food, no help, no other voices. The warships were gone. The machines had finished their job. The mother looked at her children. She knew she had to keep moving. She stood up, slowly, pain in her side. She held her daughter's hand. She told the boy, "Stay close. Don't speak." They walked through the ruins, past what used to be homes, past the places where they once played. The boy suddenly stopped. "Mom, look, footprints. Not machine tracks. Not alien feet. Boots. Someone had walked here recently." The mother became alert. Who else was here? A survivor or something worse? Suddenly a sound. Footsteps. Close. She pushed the children behind a broken wall. Her body covered theirs. The footsteps came closer. Crunching glass, moving slow. Then a shadow appeared. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't one of them. It was a human. Tall, wearing armor. A weapon on his back. He looked tired, injured. His arm was bleeding. The mother stared. Frozen. Humans were the enemy. The attackers, the destroyers. Why was one here? Alone. The human looked around. He didn't see them yet. He walked slowly, carefully, like he was searching for something or someone. He bent down, picked up a small toy from the ground. He looked at it and sighed. Then, he looked straight toward the wall where they were hiding. The mother's heart stopped. Did he see them? She reached for a broken metal rod. If he tried anything, she would fight. The human raised one hand open, empty, calm. And then he said, quietly, "I'm not here to hurt you." The air was cold and dry as the mother stood still behind the broken wall, holding her children close to her chest, watching the human who now stood in the ruins of their village. He did not move quickly. He did not hold his weapon high. Instead, he looked around with eyes that seemed full of pain and sadness. She could not trust him. She knew what his kind had done to her world. She had seen the fire from the sky, the death, the destruction. The screaming of her people. Her home was gone. Her friends were gone. Her mate had died in a war long ago, and now this human stood in the middle of the ashes like a ghost. The boy stepped forward just a little. His small voice whispered to his mother, "He looks hurt. Maybe he needs help." She shook her head gently and pulled him back. They could not take the risk. They were alone. They had nothing left but. The human did not leave. He sat down slowly on a stone, breathing heavily. His armor was cracked. His leg was shaking. His arm was bleeding badly. He opened a small pack and took out something wrapped in plastic food. He unwrapped it and placed it on the ground in front of him, then backed away. He did not say a word, this time just pointed to the food and then to the wall where he knew they were hiding. His face was tired, not angry, not cold like the others who came from the sky. The Mother looked at her children. They were hungry. They had not eaten since the sky turned red. Her daughter was weak and shaking. Her son's lips were dry. She knew she had no choice. She stepped out slowly, one step then another, holding the metal rod in her hand ready to strike if he moved too fast. The human did not move. He stayed on the ground, quiet, calm. Watching her with careful eyes, she bent down, picked up the food and stepped back quickly. She gave it to her children, who began eating with shaking hands. The taste was strange but warm. They needed it. The human reached into his pack again this time. Pulling out a small water bottle, he rolled it gently across the ground toward her. She caught it and smelled it. It was clean. She let her children drink first, then took a sip herself. She stared at him, her eyes narrow. "Why are you here?" she asked her. Voice was rough from dust and fear. He looked at her for a moment and then spoke slowly, carefully. "I was part of the drop team. I did not know what the mission really was until it was too late. They told us it was a strike against weapons, not people, not homes." She did not believe him, not fully, but something in his voice felt different. He was not proud of what had happened. He looked lost, alone. Just like them, he reached into his belt and pulled out a small device. It showed a map. He pointed at a blinking dot nearby. "There is an old shelter underground, maybe 2 kilometers from here. We can go there safer than this place." She looked around the ruins, smoke still rising, metal, machines walking in the distance. This place was death. She had to move if she wanted to keep her children alive, but could she walk beside a human? Could she trust someone from the side that killed everything she loved? Her son stood up and looked at the human and then at her. His voice was small but clear. "We cannot stay here, Mommy. He helped us. Maybe he can help more." The mother looked at her daughter, to now sleeping softly with a bit of food in her mouth. She took a long breath and then nodded. "Show her," she said, not because she believed him, but because there was no other way. The human stood up slowly, limping. He did not offer a hand. He kept his distance but walked ahead, scanning the area like a soldier. Careful, quiet, alert. They followed behind the mother in the middle, her son holding her hand, her daughter on her back, wrapped in a cloth. The road was broken with deep craters, trees burned to nothing, pieces of machines and bodies along the path, but no sound, no life, just wind and ashes. The human stopped now and then, checking the map, checking the sky. His face tense, his steps slow, his breathing heavy. He was wounded but kept moving up. For a while they reached a fallen tree, wide and thick. He pointed under it. There was a metal hatch covered in dirt and leaves. He pulled it open slowly with effort and led them inside. The shelter was dark at first, then lights blinked on, old yellow lights flickering. The place smelled of metal and dust, but it was dry. It was safe. He showed them a corner with blankets and a heater, some canned food and supplies. Enough for a few days. She sat down, holding her children close. They were warm now, fed, safe for a little while. The human sat on the other side, not speaking, just watching the door, guarding like a silent protector. She looked at him once more, her voice soft and unsure. "What is your name?" He looked up, surprised for a moment, then said Daniel. She did not give hers, not yet, but she did say thank you, and that was the first time she had ever said those words to a human. Far above the shelter, the sky was still red, but deep below in the ruins, 3 aliens and 1 human had taken the first step towards something strange, something new, something that might one day be called hope. Inside the shelter, the air was cold and dry. The light from the old ceiling flickered, but it was enough to see cracked walls, metal shelves, rusted tools. Everything looked forgotten but safe. The mother sat in the corner, holding her daughter, who was now sleeping. Her son rested against her side, his eyes slowly closing. The human named Daniel sat across from them, his back against the wall, his arm wrapped in cloth, the wound still bleeding a little. He did not complain, he did not speak, he simply watched the small family with eyes full of regret. The mother did not sleep. She stayed awake, her mind busy with fear and questions. How long could they stay here? Who else was alive? Were the machines still outside? Would this human protect them or leave them again when danger came? She did not trust him, not yet, but he had helped them when no one else did. He had shared his food and water and brought them here. He had not touched his weapon once. He was different somehow, but different did not mean safe. Morning did not come. The world above was still covered in smoke and red sky. Time felt strange. Inside the shelter, quiet, heavy, slow. Daniel finally broke the silence, his voice low. "I was a pilot, not a soldier. They told us this planet had weapons of mass danger. They lied to us." The mother listened but said nothing. Her eyes watched his face, trying to understand the truth behind his words. He looked tired, not just in body but in soul, like someone carrying something heavy for too long. He pointed to a small metal box on the wall. "Power unit, old but working. We can charge devices here. Filter air, cook a little." He opened it slowly. The machine hummed a soft sound like breathing life back into the space. Warm air began to flow. Lights grew a little brighter. Her son stood and walked toward the machine, touching the light with wide eyes. Daniel smiled for the first time, not with joy but with memory. "I have a boy too, back on Earth, same age. His name is Keith." The mother looked at him, surprised. She had not imagined humans with families or love or children. It was easier to hate them when they were only monsters from the sky. Now this man had a name, a child, a story. Daniel reached into his bag, pulled out a small photo, dirty, torn, faded. He showed it to her, a young boy smiling, standing in front of a tree, very tall, very green, not like anything on this planet. The mother looked at it for a long time, then gave it back outside. Something moved, a sharp sound, like metal scraping. Stone. Daniel stood quickly, grabbing his scanner, one red light blinking close. He turned to the mother, his voice sharp but calm. They found us. We need to move now. She picked up her daughter, who was still half asleep, and held her son's hand tightly. Daniel led them down a narrow tunnel inside the shelter, old emergency escape path, barely standing, wires hanging from the walls, water dripping from the ceiling. They moved fast through the dark, only Daniel's small light showing the way. The tunnel ended in a small door. He pushed it open, and they stepped into another space, smaller, colder, deeper. Daniel closed the door behind them, locking it from the inside. They were safe again for now, breathing hard, shaking a little, but alive. Daniel sat down, again pressing his back to the cold metal wall, his face pale. He had lost more blood than he showed. The mother walked toward him slowly and looked at his armlet. "Me see," she said. He hesitated, then nodded. She tore a piece of cloth from her own clothing, cleaned the wound gently, then wrapped it tight. He winced, but did not pull away. "Thank you," he said. She nodded once, only once. Her son spoke from the corner. "Are we going to die?" The mother looked at him, her voice firm. "Not today, not while I breathe." Daniel looked at her, and something changed in his eyes, a spark, maybe of respect, maybe of guilt. They stayed in the small room, resting, waiting, listening to the machines above, searching, scanning, hunting, but the door held strong, and Daniel's scanner showed no movement. After a while, the boy began to speak, again asking Daniel questions about Earth, about his son, about the stars. Daniel answered softly, telling them about oceans and mountains and snow, about animals with fur and birds with songs, about buildings that touched the clouds and roads that went forever. The children listened with wide eyes. For a moment they forgot that war. The mother watched in silence, thinking of her own world before the fire, before the sky turned red, when she who had laughed, when she had danced, when her mate had held her hand by the river where the flowers grew blue and tall. Now that world was gone, but the stories remained. Later that night, Daniel stood and said, "We should move tomorrow. I know a place far from here, an old human base abandoned before the attack. We might find supplies, maybe even a radio we can call for help." She did not ask why he was helping, why he cared. Her trust was still small, but growing. She nodded again, not as an enemy, not as an enemy, not as a prisoner, but as something close to an alien. The cold shelter under a broken world, an alien mother, her 2 children, and a human stranger shared warmth, food, and silence, not as friends, not yet, but as survivors. And somewhere far above them in the ruined sky, machines kept searching, but for now they were hidden together, and that was enough. The wind above the shelter was no longer still. It carried smoke, heat, and the soft hum of machines moving through empty streets, broken trees, and crushed buildings. The machines were not resting. They were searching for what was left, anything that breathed, anything that lived inside the deep room. Daniel was already awake, his eyes watching the scanner, his hand resting near his broken weapon. The signal was weak, but still working. One blinking dot showed movement, not close, but coming from the north. The alien mother also did not sleep much. Her daughter lay warm in her arms. The boy snored softly against the wall. They were safe for the moment, but she knew safety was a thin shell, and the world outside was waiting to break it. Daniel stood slowly, his legs sore, his arms still hurting from the wound. He walked toward the door and checked the lock. Still strong, still holding. He turned to her and spoke in a low voice. "We move at first light. They are sweeping sector by sector. We have maybe 1 hour." She nodded. Standing with care, she lifted her daughter onto her back again and helped her son prepare. They had no bags, only what Daniel had given them: food, water, a small light, and his trust, which she now carried like a heavy stone in her chest. The tunnel beyond the shelter led into the deep ruins of the city, once a place of towers and life, now only bones and silence. The walls were black from fire, windows shattered, roads cracked by the weight of falling steel. Daniel led the way, silent and careful, his body low, his steps soft, the scanner in his hand blinking faintly, still showing a red light that moved too slow, too steady to be anything alive. A machine. The boy followed close behind, watching everything with wide eyes. He wanted to speak, but the mother placed her hand on his head gently. Not now. Silence was safety, sound was death. They crossed the street, crawling over broken walls and fallen signs. The machines had passed this way already, leaving marks deep in the ground and metal pieces scattered like trash, but no bodies. The machines took everything. A sound broke the air, not loud, but sharp. A static burst from Daniel's scanner. His hand moved fast, shutting it off too late. The red light on the machine blinked. Faster now, not 1 but 2 signals closing in. "Run," he said. The mother grabbed her children and moved fast, her feet hitting hard stone, her breath sharp, her heart louder than the machines behind her. They turned down an alley, broken cars and metal blocks in their path. Daniel helped lift the boy over a wall while the mother climbed with her daughter wrapped tight around her neck. Behind them, the sound of metal legs on stone. The machines had heard the scanner. They were coming. No warning, no voice, only fast, cold movement. Daniel turned and fired once his weapon barked. A single bright light hit the machine. It stumbled back, sparks flying, but not down, not broken. It moved again, faster now, angry like it knew its prey. The group ran through a narrow door into a dark building, old papers flying in the wind, furniture burned and crushed. The place smelled of dust and death, but they did not stop. "Upstairs," Daniel called, pointing to a stairwell. They climbed fast. The boy slipped, but the mother caught him. Daniel turned again, firing at the machine below. It screamed a terrible sound, not pain, but signal calling more. They reached the roof flat wide open. The sky above them red and full of smoke. Daniel looked around fast and pointed at a cable line crossing to the next building, thin but strong enough, he hoped. He pulled a belt from his pack, wrapped it around the boy and told him hold tight, then sent him across the line sliding with a hook tied to the belt. The boy screamed once but made it to the other side, safe next to the mother. She held her daughter close, tied the same way, and slid across the line, her arms burning but her grip strong. They landed hard but alive. Daniel was last. He tied the belt and jumped the line, shaking under his weight. Halfway across, one of the machines climbed onto the roof and aimed a red light at him. He let go. He fell onto the next roof, hitting hard, rolling but standing, blood in his mouth, breath gone but alive. The machine fired too late, missing him by inches. He looked back at the family. They were all staring at him. The boy ran and helped pull him up. Daniel smiled through the pain. Not bad for an old man, he said. They moved again into the new building, locking the door behind them. Breathing hard, the mother turned to him, her voice quiet but firm. You saved us again. Daniel sat down and wiped the blood from his face. I was a hunter once, he said, soldier, scout, pilot. Now I am just trying not to die. She looked at him, then at her children. They were alive not because of luck, but because this human had chosen not to kill, because he had turned his back on war, because he had chosen them. The machines were still searching, but now the roles were changed. The hunter had become the hunted, and the hunted had learned to run together somewhere deep inside the city, in a place without light, without rest, without peace. An alien mother, her 2 children, and a human who no longer believed in war shared a breath of safety. One more day to survive, one more day to hope. The sun never rose over the broken city. The red sky stayed above, like a wound that would never heal. The air smelled like smoke and burnt metal. Every step through the ruins made the dust rise and danced like ghosts looking for a place to rest. Daniel moved ahead carefully, his hand holding the scanner, his eyes sharp and tired. He had not slept much. His wound still hurt, his leg ached with every step, but he kept going. The children were behind him, walking slow. The mother walked between them, her body weak but her mind strong. They had reached what was once a tall tower. Now it stood broken, leaning to one side but still holding the bones of the past. Daniel believed something was inside, something that could help them send a message, call for help, maybe reach someone beyond this place. The boy asked softly, what is this place? Daniel looked up and said, communications center, a place where signals were sent before the war. He hoped the machines had not destroyed everything. The door was half open, half crushed. Daniel pushed it slowly. It made no sound. The inside was dark and full of wires, papers, glass pieces of screens that once showed pictures from far away. Now everything was dead. They walked slowly through the rooms. Daniel's light moved across walls, showing words in a language the mother could not read, maps with red lines, circles, names that had no meaning. Now everything was history, buried under ash and silence. Then they found it, a small room with metal walls and a long table full of equipment. Daniel smiled for the first time in days. It was broken, damaged, burned, but parts of it still looked alive. A battery blinked weakly. Power still lived here like a heartbeat under the rubble. Daniel sat and began to work. His hands moved fast, knowing what to touch, what to avoid. The mother watched, not understanding the machines but seeing the focus in his eyes. Like a builder fixing a broken home, the boy stood beside Daniel, asking, what does this do? Daniel pointed. Antenna. Sends a signal. Maybe someone hears, maybe someone comes here. Connected wires, cleaned dust, checked screens, turned on switches. A slow hum began. The lights flickered. One by one, a small screen glowed. Blue letters appeared, broken lines, static but alive. He typed quickly, fingers remembering codes from long ago. Then he spoke into the mic, voice low and steady. This is Daniel Brooks, former scout, Unit Alpha 5, requesting contact any allied base, any human signal. Respond if you hear me. We have survivors with us, including civilians. Repeat, we have survivors. Nothing came back, only noise, the same hollow sound of emptiness that followed them since the sky turned red. The mother turned away, holding her daughter close, her face showing no hope. She had learned not to expect good things. Then something changed. The screen blinked, a line moved, a sound came, not loud, not clear but real, a voice, small, broken, but there. Someone was out there. Daniel leaned in, adjusting the controls, speaking again, louder. This is Brooks. Repeat, survivors present, need extraction, need confirmation. The signal cleared slowly. A voice responded, male, calm. This is Outpost 60. Human contact confirmed. Sending location. Repeat, sending coordinates. Hold your position, Daniel. It smiled wider, almost laughing. He turned to the mother and said, they heard us. Someone is coming. She looked at him, her eyes full of disbelief. She wanted to believe. She really did, but too many things had already been lost. The boy clapped quietly, excited. But the girl just held her mother tighter, not understanding yet what this meant, only feeling the warmth in her brother's voice. Daniel copied the coordinates and saved them. They had to move again, not far but enough to reach the landing site. He packed the equipment quickly, taking only what they needed. He gave the mother a small device and said, if we get separated, press this red button. It sends a flare that left the tower quietly, the red sky still above the streets, still broken, but now every step felt different, lighter, like the path ahead was no longer only survival but maybe rescue. But nothing came easy in this world. The machines were still out there, and now they were closer. The scanner blinked again, 3 lights moving fast. From the east, Daniel stopped and turned. We need to run now, faster than before. They followed him through alleys, over broken bridges, past dead vehicles and silent windows. The sound of metal feet behind them louder with every breath. They reached a hill full of broken stone. At the top was a flat area, wide open, no cover, just space, the exact place for a landing. Daniel opened the flare launcher, aimed high, and fired. A red light shot into the sky, bright against the blood-colored clouds. It screamed like a star before dying. The machines had seen it too. They moved faster now, no longer searching but chasing. Daniel gave the scanner to the mother and said, "Go take them, I will slow them down." She refused, shaking her head, but he looked at her and said, "They need you, not me. Go now." She ran, pulling her children behind her, tears in her eyes, dust in her throat. The boy screamed back for Daniel, but she did not stop. She could not. From behind came the sound of metal and fire, of a fight, not fair but brave. She reached the flat ground and looked up. A ship appeared through the smoke, small, fast, not a warship but a rescue craft. It came down, slow landing with lights flashing. The doors opened and voices called out. She turned back but saw nothing, only smoke and light and silence. Then the scanner blinked again, a green light. Daniel was coming. The wind pushed hard across the landing zone, dust rising around the small rescue ship, its lights flashing, its doors open, ready to take in the lost and the broken. The mother stood holding her daughter tight, her son beside her, breathing fast, his face wet with sweat and fear. Voices came from inside the ship, clear and firm, asking her to move, asking her to come quickly, but her eyes stayed fixed on the smoke behind them, waiting, watching, searching for the man who helped them live. Then a shape moved through the smoke, a limp figure dragging one leg, holding his side. Daniel appeared, coughing, bleeding, walking like every step was fire. The boy ran to him, arms open, crying out his name. Daniel dropped to one knee, catching him with his one good arm, his face pale but his eyes full of life. The mother ran to them, helped him stand again. He looked at her and smiled, weak but real. "I told you I would come." She nodded once, then helped carry him to the ship. The crew inside reached out, pulled them all aboard, then shut the doors with a heavy sound like final safety. Inside the ship, the lights were clean and white, the walls smooth. The smell was metal and fuel, but warm. The children sat quietly, holding each other. The mother, wrapped in a blanket, sat near Daniel as a medic worked on his wounds. The commander of the ship came forward, a tall man in dark uniform, sharp eyes, hard voice, asking questions. "Who are you? What happened? How did you survive?" Daniel answered slowly, carefully choosing words. The mother watched his face and saw the shift, something behind his eyes, something hidden. The commander listened, then looked at the mother and her children, his voice cold again. "You helped them?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, I did. They were not enemies, they were victims. The war is not what we were told." The commander's face changed, his mouth tight, his eyes sharper. "This is not your call, soldier. Your orders were to support the strike, not protect the target." Daniel sat up straight, ignoring the pain, his voice stronger than before. "They were not the target. They were never armed. They had no soldiers, only homes, only families." The room went quiet. The hum of the engines, the soft beeping of machines filled the silence. The mother looked from Daniel to the commander, her hands tight around her daughter's shoulders. The commander turned to his crew. "Take us back to the station, full report to be filed. But keep them contained." He pointed to the family, his words sharp as knives. Daniel stood trying to follow, but the medic stopped him. "Your ribs are broken, you need rest." Daniel shook his head and walked anyway. He reached the back of the ship where the mother and her children were now in a small room guarded by a soldier with a heavy weapon. Daniel stepped in and the guard moved aside, not sure what to do. Mother stood when she saw him, her eyes full of questions. He answered without words, only showing her a small device in his hand, a tracker with coordinates not for the human base, but for another place, a safe zone, hidden far from both armies. She did not understand at first, but the boy did. He looked at the screen, then at Daniel. "You want us to leave the station?" Daniel nodded. "If you go with them, they will study you, maybe take you, maybe never let you go, but if you leave now, you can find your people if they are still out there." The mother looked at him, her voice quiet. "Why help us still? Why give us this chance?" Daniel sat slowly beside her, his hands shaking. "Because I have seen too much death. I have followed too many bad orders. I will not follow this one." The ship landed at the human station, high walls, metal towers, guards everywhere. The family was taken into a small holding room. The guards never spoke, only watched. That night, Daniel moved through the halls, quiet like a shadow. His uniform gave him freedom, his rank gave him access. He used it all to reach the holding room. He entered with purpose, handed the boy a bag with supplies, the mother a small communicator, and a card that opened a back door to a transport pod. They looked at him, unsure, afraid. "What happens if we get caught?" she asked. Daniel did not smile this time. "Then I will take the blame and you will still run because your life is worth more than my rank." The alarm did not ring when they left. The night covered them. The pod moved fast across empty roads into dark skies. Away from orders, away from control, towards something unknown. Daniel watched from a window as the stars moved above his heart, heavy but still beating for something better, not victory, not war, not pride, only the hope that 3 lives might find peace in a place where no one gave them a reason to fear. The pod moved through the night sky, far from the station, far from orders, far from war. The stars looked down, quiet and cold, but the silence inside the pod was warm. The mother held her daughter close. Her son sat beside her, holding the map. Daniel had given him, tracing the lines with careful fingers. No one spoke for it. Long time the engines hummed a soft sound, like breathing. The mother thought of everything they had lost and everything they still had. The memory of fire still burned in her mind. But now something else was growing, not fear, not anger, something quiet and strange, something like hope. After many hours the pod began to slow. The land below was wide and green. The fire had not touched this place. Hills stretched in every direction. Small rivers moved through the fields. The wind was clean and soft. The sky was not red here. It was blue, pale and endless. The pod landed in a valley hidden by tall grass and stone. The door opened and the family stepped outside for a moment. No one moved. The mother closed her eyes and listened. No machines, no voices, no danger, only the sound of the wind moving through the leaves. They walked slowly away from the pod, following the signal Daniel had placed on the map. It led them to a cave, not deep but safe. Inside were supplies, food, tools, water, enough for days. Someone had prepared this place with care. Someone had believed they would make it this far. The boy found a small device, blinking gently. He touched it, and a voice came out, not loud, not sharp, only calm and strong. It was, "Daniel, if you are hearing this, then you made it. You are safe for now. There is a small village 2 days north, peaceful, hidden, not human, not military. They helped me once. They will help you. To tell them my name. They will understand." The voice stopped. The boy smiled. The mother placed a hand on his shoulder. They rested in the cave that night, sleeping without fear. The stars outside moved slowly across the sky, like old guardians watching something good for once. The next morning they walked again across grass and stone, through quiet lands untouched by fire. The girl laughed. Chasing a strange insect with glowing wings, the boy ran ahead and pointed at the sky. "Look, birds, real birds." They all stopped and watched the birds fly high and free. On the second day they reached the village. It was small, made of wood and stone. The people were different, not human, not like the mother's kind. Either something new, peaceful, calm eyes, soft hands, strong hearts. The leader listened to their story, and when the boy said Daniel's name, the leader smiled and welcomed them with open arms. They stayed in the village for many weeks. The mother helped in the garden. The children learned to read new words and speak new sounds. They played with others, laughed, and the son slept without fear. The mother's eyes no longer searched the sky every night, only sometimes when she remembered. One evening the boy found a small machine behind the village. It was old and broken, but he worked on it, cleaned it, fixed the wires and connected it to the map Daniel had given them. The screen lit up, a simple message waiting for reply. The boy typed slowly, "Thank you, we are safe. We will remember you always." He sent the message and watched the screen. No answer came, but he did not mind. He knew the message had reached where it needed to go. Far away in another place, Daniel stood near a river, the water moving gently over stone. His arm still healing, his body marked by war, but his eyes were clear. He looked at the sky and smiled, not because he had one, not because he was proud, but because somewhere a family was alive and free. Because one good choice had changed everything. He did not wear a uniform now. He did not carry a weapon. He carried only memories, some painful, some full of light. He walked through towns, helping where he could, fixing what was broken, telling stories not of war but of peace, not of hate but of courage, not of power but of courage, not of Curran. The village, the mother planted a tree beside her new home. The children helped dig the earth, soft and dark. They placed a stone near the roots with a symbol carved by hand. Not words, just a sign of thanks, a sign of life, a sign of hope. As the sun set that day, the mother stood under the tree and watched her children play. She did not cry, she did not speak. She only placed a hand over her heart and looked to the sky once more, no longer afraid. No longer alone, because sometimes the strongest thing in the world is not a weapon, not a wall, not a soldier. Sometimes the strongest thing is a choice. Say choice to help, pay choice to courage, choice to save.